Hi, welcome to the Peaceful Home. Do you ever feel like all you do is pick up after your kids? Do you struggle to feel like day in and day out you are picking up their shoes, their clothes, their papers, their backpacks, their toys? You nag and remind and try to get them to pick up their stuff, but nothing seems to work. If that's where you're at, I think today's video will be very helpful. I'm going to tell you about my absolute #1 best trick to get my kids to stop leaving their stuff all over the house. I'm so glad to have you with me today. If you're new here, I'm Teresaelling. I'm a professional organizer, a parenting coach, and a wife and homeschool mom to 6 graduated kids. Raising children is a tough job, and it's so hard for us to remember all the things that we need to do. And I will give you this reminder. It really is important to have your child be able to organize their space, be able to clean up after themselves, and be able to take care of their personal items. But we don't ever want to lose sight of the importance of connection with our child, and that our job is not just to get them to, fall in line and do what they're supposed to do, but to always maintain a connection of love and mutual respect and coming alongside them to help them as we're raising them. So my #1 organizing trick of all time with my children is having a buyback box. Now, you can probably guess the buyback box was a bin, a basket, wherever we lived at the time. It was a spot where if my children left something out, I would pick it up and put it in the buyback box, and they would have to buy it back. It's really that simple, but I'll give you a couple of tips that help along the way. You need to establish routines in your home, and I'm getting ready to do a series for us as moms, how to establish our morning and evening routines, and then how we can help our children with that. But for now, even if you don't have really great routines in place, in order to use the buyback box effectively, you at least need to have your children in the habit of checking the house for belongings at the end of each day. Now, if you need to set a timer for a while, you need to put it on a note for you on your list to remind them, that's fine. But they're not going to get the hang of it in the beginning unless you're reminding them. What I would recommend is to have a set time, either before dinner or before bed, and you give one reminder. It's time for your bedtime routine. Don't forget to check the house for buyback. That's what I would say. And the kids knew that they just need to do a once-over, walking through the house and checking for any of their belongings and putting them away. By the time we got all the kids tucked in, I then had to remind myself, it was one of my evening habits, I had to go through the house and do a check. And so when I did that, if I found a pair of shoes that belonged to a child, they went in the buyback. I found someone's book, someone left out a doll, whatever it is, I would gather those things and put them in the box. We did pay our children an allowance once a week, as well as paying for extra jobs. And I hope to do a video on that soon as well. But I will just say that we chose that Friday, which was payday, to also be the buyback box day. And that was the day that I would bring the box out. And because I didn't want my children throughout the day, any day of the week, saying, "Oh, Mom, I need this book for school. I need to buy it back right now." I just didn't want to be at their mercy for whenever they felt like buying something back. You can make exceptions to that, of course, but for the most part, if it was put in there, it was there until Friday. And then at that point, they could choose to buy back their item, and you can set a small amount. I think when we first started, which would have been like 25 years ago, I think it was a dime. And eventually it got up to a quarter. So something small, but significant enough that there's a little bit of cost to be paid for leaving their stuff out. So I would pull the box out on Friday. I would pay everyone their allowance or their money due, and then they would go through and decide if they wanted to buy anything back. Now, they didn't have to buy their items back, but if I noticed that after a couple of weeks, they left something in there and they were not buying it back, it's a really good indication that they don't care much about that item. I might ask at that point, Are you wanting to donate this, or do you want to buy it back? Because I'm not going to keep it forever. And they would have to make a choice one way or the other. And I personally believe that's a really healthy skill, to understand that you don't have to keep everything. And something that was once important and useful now isn't, and it can be donated. And you really do find out what is important to them when you use the buyback box. When my children were learning in the beginning, I did allow them to buy back, say, a pair of shoes that they needed, rather than waiting 4 days until the official day. There's absolutely a place for grace here. You just don't want to say one thing and do another. You don't want to tell your children, if you leave your things out, I'll put them in the buyback box, but then you don't. Or once those items are placed in there, you don't give them a chance to buy them back. The other thing is the reminders can be really helpful for training. But eventually down the road, I stopped with reminders, and the kids just had to know on their own that they needed to make that part of their routine. If you have to remind them constantly, then you're actually negatively training. And I have a great video about training and negative training, and actually 2 different videos. I will post those below if you haven't seen them. But it's really important that you're consistent with this. But I will be honest, most days, my home was free, at least of the kids' little belongings scattered everywhere. They learned to pick up their things quickly. One other thing that I'll mention is that sometimes you have a child who is just a little more scattered. They tend to leave out more things, and when you put them in the box, they're just kind of like, yeah, I don't care, donate it, whatever. And at that point, if you see that happening, I think that happened with one of my children for a season. And so I now realized this is now negative training. I'm actually training you, leave your stuff out, I'll pick it up for you, and you don't have to do anything ever again. So then what I did was, if they didn't want to buy it back for a quarter, well, they would have to pay me a dime for my effort in picking it up and then donating it. And once they realized they couldn't just leave their stuff out and mom would pick it up and take care of it, they were much more careful about leaving their things out. A really important part of training your children is not nagging or giving reminders. Now, when they are initially being trained, giving a reminder, like I said, once a day, check the house for buyback, that's great, and you're helping them establish their new routines. But if you get to the point where you're nagging and you're telling them, hey, I told you guys to go pick up your stuff, and then you're going to tuck them in bed, you're finding more stuff, hey, so-and-so, get out here, you've left your stuff out. I told you to get your stuff, or I'm putting it in the buyback box. I'm serious, I'll do it. So you don't need any threats, you don't need nagging, you don't need multiple reminders. The consequence has to be enough to motivate your child. So the consequence is your item will be taken, not after nagging and numerous reminders, after the one reminder or no reminders. That helps our children realize, I've got to take care of this myself. It teaches them to be more independent and to learn how to manage their things. I actually would love it when they would keep some things out, because I knew that it would be a reinforcement and a reminder when they had to buy it back. But they don't need me nagging them. They don't need me to have a sour face, to get angry. The consequence has to be its own kind of punishment, if you will, not my attitude towards them. The great thing about this is it frees you up to be a loving, amazing parent, to encourage your child, to speak life into them, to say, oh, buddy, I'm so sorry you left your shoes out last night. They're in buyback. And then at that point, you can say, you can get them out tomorrow when we pull the box out. Or, are you going to need them today? I could let you buy them back today. Whatever you need to do. But you are for them. They can see that you love them, that you're actually empathizing with them, rather than being angry. It will make such a huge difference in the peace in your home when you're not nagging your kids. So let the buyback box do its job, and don't give multiple reminders. The other thing I did not do was get angry that they had stuff in the buyback box. You can't be angry at their choices. You gave them a choice. You can pick this up or not. But if you don't, this is what will happen. Don't let your anger get in the way either. Children do not respond well to anger, especially when it's tied to a consequence. Let that consequence be what motivates them and helps them learn while you keep a smile on your face. There is one more component that you could add to this, and that would be to use the buyback box for a toy item that they checked out but didn't put away. Now, if you do that and you decide to clean it up and put it in buyback, then they don't have a choice. If they had checked it out, they have to pay to get it back and return it where it belongs. For the most part, we just handled that with, we'd love to have you join us for dinner as soon as you pick up your blocks. And they would have to get that done, checked back in before they could join us for dinner or family activity or whatever. And that usually just kept them putting away checked out toys the way that they should. And we saved the buyback box for personal items. I hope this video is helpful. I would love to hear in the comments below what you're struggling with in picking up after your kids, and if you think the buyback box will work for you. Thanks so much for joining me today on The Peaceful Home. Have a great day.